Right.
Right, so. just-
It'll be here in a few hours.
Talk about.
Oh, it's-
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know,
Oh, I did water get up here in '96.
basketball, and- You couldn't get it. Might even say yes. Yeah.
It's from something I think that should receive that. Yeah.
I think it's all there. I can see after the meeting. You have to do it.
It's a nice thing to read when you get a chance.
Oh, great.
It does. It needs to be cleaned off. I don't know what the camera is. Oh, is it right there? Yeah. Oh. Good counselor said here. We've got at least two positive things to happen.
Yeah, yeah. So we gotta go and say, hey, you know, you two guys really liked you.
Watch them talk on the computer. I don't trust that one. It's 7 o'clock now.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Welcome to the November 2024 Hubbard City Council meeting. Yeah, this meeting is being held in a hybrid format here at the city, Hubbard City Hall and via Zoom, as well as being live streamed by YouTube. Thank you for joining us this evening using whichever format works best for you. To begin this meeting, I would like to invite everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, with that, fellow councilors, on the consent agenda, there is quite a list. Is there anything you would like to pull out for regular discussion? Councilor Young? I have nothing, thank you. Councilor Steinman?
No, I don't have anything.
Councilor Thomas? Councilor Rogers? We'll keep that as is then. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into our first topic for this evening, public hearing. And I've got it right here. So with the public hearing, I do have a small script that I will read and then we'll hand it over. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing for the supplemental budget 2024-2025. I guess we'll go ahead and say that it is 7:01 p.m. And with that, I will hand it over to our budget officer for questions and discussions of the presentation but first.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Budget law allows for budgets to be adjusted throughout the fiscal year to account for activities that were not anticipated during the budget development and adoption process. The supplemental budget reflects a general fund appropriation increase of $75,500. These are for 3 grants the city received earlier this year. The grants were from CIS for police equipment, Marion County for the Community Prosperity Initiative, and the Ford Family Foundation for community outreach work. Additionally, the supplemental will increase the Parks Improvement appropriation by $347,587 to reflect the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department local government grant program that will pay for the playground replacement project at Revenus Park. And with that, I'll turn it back to council for questions and discussion.
And with that, council, is there any questions? We'll go around. We'll start with Councilor Rogers. Councilor Thomas.
No questions, thanks.
Councilor Stein.
I have no questions.
No questions. Make it even easier. Okay, with that, I will ask the public, if there are any comments or questions. We have anyone online, but we do have a small audience here. Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:03, very quick. On the supplemental budget 2024-2025, and I'll call for a motion to adopt.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 801-2024.
I second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, let's move on to the next one, calendar of ordinances. Oh, this is a great one. It's just a read by title. But before we move in on this one, I'm just gonna ask council, is there any questions on this one before we move on to the read by title? This is the one with the G Street properties.
No questions. No questions.
Okay, with that, then, can we get a motion to read by title?
Make a motion to read by title. A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to read by title, ordinance number 391-2024, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Comprehensive Plan Land Use Designation Map and Hubbard Zone Map for 5 properties on G Street.
Make a motion to read by title only for second reading. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for second reading, ordinance number 391-2024, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Comprehensive Plan Land Use Designation Map and Hubbard Zone Map for 5 properties on G Street.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 391-2024.
We have a motion and we have a second to adopt motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. Motion carries. Yeah, you guys are blowing through this agenda topic 4 already, and we're only at 7:04. Okay, discussion regarding the restroom closure hours. I'll hand this over to City Administrator Wade.
Hey, thank you, Mayor and Council. Currently, park restrooms are locked at 10 PM every night. During that time between dusk and when the restroom doors are locked, there has been a high rate of vandalism that occurs. This is becoming very costly to the city. In the first quarter of this fiscal year, it has cost the city approximately $2,446 to repair damaged equipment and infrastructure. And it also takes hours of staff time to perform the repairs, taking them away from other critical work to support city services. Staff is recommending that park restrooms be closed at dusk, beginning November 15th, and go through March 31st. The regular schedule of leaving the restrooms open until 10 PM would resume April 1st. Now I'll turn it back over to council for discussion.
Is there any questions? Counselor Young?
I have no questions.
Counselor Stein? Counselor Thomas?
No questions.
Counselor Rogers?
I have no question.
I'm in full support of this. I think it's a brilliant idea, quite honestly. I think good happens after dark. With that, do you want us to, this is just a notification at this point, you don't need a motion or approval from us, right?
Correct. So what staff will do is we'll post signage in the parks to let people know, and then also post some information on our website, Instagram, and Facebook.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, discussion regarding the Bauman's lateral. So if you recall, a few months ago, we had the Baumans come in, and they were talking about how when Comcast was coming through, pushing the line through, the subcontractor severed their sewer line, that kind of right. So I'm assuming we're all up to speed on that one. Last month, the city attorney reached back out, said that there's nothing from a legal standpoint that the city is obligated to do, but that doesn't sit right with me. I wanted to bring it for discussion in council. I felt like years ago, before I became mayor, we encountered a similar situation where the city just kind of washed their hands at us. Let us walk away, just deal with it yourself. I think in this case, we invited a franchisee to come in, run new lines. They said they would fix anything that they damaged, and for the most part, they did. But in this case, I think they're leaving the homeowners with the bag, and I just don't think that's right. I would like to ask council's direction towards city staff to please work with legal to see what we can do to help facilitate resolution to this. I just want to make sure there was no disagreement amongst council in that direction.
Yep, I agree. I think we should do it.
I think we need to be heavy-handed with the market.
Okay. Councilor Young?
Yeah, I agree.
Councilor Stein?
I agree also.
Okay. Mr. Wade, is that going to be good enough for what you need in terms of our direction?
Yeah, so I will reach out to our city attorney again and let her know that I'm going to be contacting Comcast and the also subcontractor that was involved. And we're gonna start pursuing, we can't actually file legal action against them. We don't have technically a stake in this.
Right, we can't show damage to us. So,
Right.
Right.
But there is some things that we can do as far as addressing Comcast and their obligation to fix it. So
Okay,
we'll
thank you.
start in that.
I just don't want to see the homeowners left holding the bag on this one. It's a significant cost for anyone. Okay, thank you, council. Let's move on. Discussion regarding, the Kalinsky Volunteer of the Year Award nomination. Hand this back over to City Administrator Wade.
Thank you, and pleased to announce I can say Klozinski now. It took me a year to get there, but City Council established the City of Hubbard Klozinski Volunteer of the Year Award Program last fiscal year. Staff received a nomination for Glenn Holm to receive the award for 2024. Mr. Holm has served on the Hubbard Planning Commission for 15 years. During his tenure, he has provided input on numerous planning applications, code changes, and legislative amendments. Additionally, he has served on the North Marion School Board since 2017. He served on the board during an unprecedented challenge in education when we were faced with COVID-19. He handled the situation with care and compassion. Additionally, Mr. Holm is involved in other charities and nonprofit organizations that focus on giving back to the Hubbard community. Staff is requesting direction from City Council to accept the nomination and move forward with preparing the award.
Yeah, Councilor Rogers, any concerns?
Sure.
Councilor Thomas?
I have none.
Councilor Stein?
I have no concerns.
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of approving the nomination of Mr. Holman.
Yep,
Was that
I would completely concur.
or volunteer?
He's a good guy who continues to put himself forward in the community. All right. Well, now we get to the meaty topics. Discussion regarding FEMA floodplain requirements. I'll hand that over to Mr. Lane.
So this is gonna take a little bit longer than a minute. So first, I apologize for the formatting error on the memo. Vicki and I have discussed how I'm gonna catch those in the future. The purpose of this report is to inform City Council of a new FEMA requirement. So in 2009, FEMA was sued by several environmental groups for failing to consider the impact of the National Flood Insurance Program on endangered and threatened species. The case was settled in 2010, and as part of that settlement, FEMA agreed to consult with the National Marine Fisheries Services to have a study completed on the impacts of the flood insurance program. Concluding the study, it was found that the flood insurance program creates a significant risk to endangered and threatened species. In response to the study, FEMA drafted an implementation plan that focuses on preserving and restoring three major floodplain functions. First, flood storage. So limiting new fill or requiring compensatory flood storage to offset any new fill. Flood storage is an area that's below the flood height, but above the flood bank stage. So, which is capable of storing floodwaters during a flood event. Water quality, so limiting new impervious surfaces and heightened stormwater requirements. And riparian vegetation, restricting removal of 170 feet from the water feature. FEMA Region 10 notified cities and counties that they will be required to comply with the Endangered Species Act. FEMA provided cities and counties with 3 pre-implementation compliance measures, or what we're referring to as PICMs, for implementation. They are prohibit all new development in a floodplain area, develop a model ordinance by incorporating the Endangered Species Act requirements into the city's floodplain ordinance, evaluate on a permit by permit basis in which applicants would develop a floodplain habitat assessment documenting their proposed development in the specific floodplain area to achieve a net zero impact. I will note that that third option is very cost intensive to the developer. And I'll explain a little bit about how this process is going to work. So FEMA has set a deadline for communities to select a PICM option no later than December 1st, 2024. And if the community does not select a PICM, FEMA will default the community to a permit by permit process. So again, this is a very cost-intensive process to a developer. The good thing is, so Hubbard is going to default into this particular PICM, the permit by permit. As long as we are showing progress that we're moving to a model ordinance or we're just prohibiting development in a floodplain area, we will not have to force a developer to provide any documentation yet. So that's good news. As stated, all 3 PICM options are complex, and FEMA is willing to provide technical assistance for communities that request support. Staff has already submitted a request for technical assistance, which is free of charge for the city. Additionally, staff has attended 3 workshops, and based on the information provided during the workshop, FEMA understands the difficulty of trying to meet the December 1st deadline. They weren't aware when they first made the deadline that communities are going to have to require a public process in which we need to go through the planning commission, have a public hearing, go to council, public hearing, which is going to take cities quite some time to implement. So while the December 1st is a hard deadline to identify a pick'em, FEMA has also said they're willing to work with communities, and as long as we continue the conversation with them about the progress we're making in identifying a permanent pick'em solution, they are willing to continue to work with us.
So we just, as you said, default to permit, but as soon as we have one that we want to go with, one of the other two, then we can move towards that. It's not a set and you cannot change it.
Correct. And in your packet, you will see the floodplain map. So there's really only one area that is impacted in city of Hubbard, and that's along Mill Creek. So that's where we'll definitely be focusing on. As you can see, it does include where the new subdivision would be, as well as some other properties that are undeveloped at this time. Staff will continue to work with the COG and city attorney and begin the public process, including the legislative amendment, presenting to the planning commission, providing an opportunity for public comment, and then coming back to council for additional public comment and discussion. So what staff is seeking is basically direction to proceed with the public process, to open a legislative amendment and work with our planners and city attorney.
Well, I think you have clear, I mean, yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't give you direction to start the process. Is there any concern or questions that the rest of council might have, Councilor Hubbard?
Is this really a big deal?
So I'm gonna say for us, no. For other communities, it literally shuts down their downtown development.
I can believe that.
No.
Silverton, I can see being impacted for sure. Councilor Thomas, any concerns?
I don't know.
Councilor Steiner?
Are we sure we don't need to know what pick'em we're working towards before that deadline?
So that's what we're gonna be going through the legislative process and working with the planning commission to identify which one will work for us. So what FEMA has said to us is that they understand this is a complex issue. Every community is different. So they're not just gonna put people into, or put communities into a specific kind of option. So they're letting communities over the next year develop something. So while they're saying the deadline is December 1st, for actual any paperwork and for us to implement one of the options, they're not asking for specific proof for a year from this January. So it'll give us plenty of time to get something in place and identify it.
So we don't need to have any direction on which one we're pursuing. We still have time to decide which one and pursue one.
Yeah, so, Counselor, that's one of the things, some of this is unknown as far as when we look at model ordinance and we have to revise ours and what the Endangered Species Act says. I mean, that is so complex that even the city attorney, they have somebody specially assigned to work on this. And it's pretty confusing about how we're gonna, do we just throw all the Endangered Species Act into our ordinance, or how do we pull pieces apart? So yeah, we have plenty of time to kind of dig into what the best measure would be.
And my assumption is, while it works through the process, eventually we'll come back here to the council for an agreement and approval.
Yes, absolutely.
Councilor Young?
Have no concerns in this sense.
Okay. I think,
Be a
yeah,
challenge.
clear direction from us. I don't think you need a motion or anything else. So thank you. Let's move on to appearances of interested citizens. We do have 3 lovely residents here in attendance, all smiling, and want to come up and talk. No, Princess Williams. Okay, if there's no one that wants to come up, we have no one online. I will go ahead and move on. I'm going to quickly, Bricks for North Marion Partnership. So about 2 weeks ago, Administrator Waite and myself had the opportunity to sit down with Chief Parisi, who always brings in food, by the way. As well as meet with Whitney Workman from Bricks of North Marion to discuss how we can basically, and Jim Twiller from North Marion Fellowship as well, on how we as a city can partner with both Donald and Hubbard with Brooks from North Marion as they do their gift giving this year. Typically, we, I believe, go through Love Santa. This year, we're not. They're going to be focusing on Woodburn, which allows Brooks for North Marion to really focus on the North Marion community. Now, Aurora, Donald already have this in place, so we'll be adopting it as well. One of the nice things is each one of the cities does have some sort of a tree lighting ceremony where the giving tree will be kind of mentioned as well, how tags can be picked up for anyone that wants to donate a gift. In Hubbard, what we're gonna do is after the tree lighting ceremony, any tags that are left over after the fire hall gathering, we're actually gonna put a holiday tree here in the city hall so people can come in and pull tags as well. Again, Aurora as well as Donald will also have something similar. To inform the community, November 22nd, myself, Mayor Asher from Aurora, Mayor Olmsted from Donald, and Dan Bush from the Superintendent of North Marion. We're going to record actually a video message. The high school students are going to do the recording, and we'll release that out onto the social media sites and the different North Marion sites and whatever it might be to inform the community of this is the great nonprofit that we partnered with. We'd really encourage, this is the place if you want to give gifts to the community, this is a great opportunity to do it. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for the cities of North Marion to work with a local nonprofit organization for gift giving this year. Just want to make sure there was no concerns though from council on this. And Council Irish, any concerns?
No concerns. We set the, we planted the foundation last year. The Brooks from North Marion handed out food boxes that we had at Love Santa purchased through the assistance we received from the city of Hubbard for the residents of North Marion. And we assisted them with the signups, knowing that we would turn the reins over to them this year. The only reason Love Santa took over Hubbard, Donald, and Aurora is because there was nobody that stepped up after the Hubbard Police Reserves dissolved, because they were the ones that handled it up until their dissolved. And so Love Santa stepped in to make sure that Hubbard, Donald, and Aurora. And then when we found out 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, that Brooks would like to, they were the knight that we were looking for coming in shining armor. So it was a perfect opportunity to turn that over to them. If somebody shows up to Love Santa signups, we have directions to tell them where they can go and sign up in North Marion. And vice versa, if somebody shows up in North Marion with a Woodburn zip code, then they can come to our last sign up. That Love Santa's doing. Perfect. So I think it's a win-win for all the communities.
Councilor Thomas, any questions?
I have nothing fixed.
Councilor Steiner?
Thank you.
Councilor Young?
I have no questions.
Awesome. Well, with that, let's go ahead and move on real quick. Oh, and then the side note, I'm not sure, Administrator White, if you saw the note from Chief Carmen, but the fire department is on board for that as well. So everything that we're planning is falling into place beautifully. So with that, mayor and or council presentation or updates, I just have a few here. The first one is, I do want to congratulate our new councilor-elect, Patrick Zotti. He's not here today, but he got elected right there. TBD on our writing candidate, but I'm pretty sure he has it. We'll see where that goes. Also, a huge shout out to Administrator Wade and our city staff for the Halloween trunk and treat. Even though it was wet and stormy and windy, and I got lucky because the fire department brought a cover for me and left you guys in the rain. But it was a huge success and a lot of children and family came through. It was absolutely fantastic. So thank you guys for really setting that up. And really good costumes, by the way. The dinosaur one still, and Vicky, our director, Noel, awesome costume on your side too, with the only heated jacket.
Right.
Okay, also with that is, I have a question for council. We get very heavy packets every month with some redundant stuff. I've been asking staff, can we reduce this? So, I mean, I've got boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of this stuff. When we get like policy changes, et cetera, is it okay if we point us to electronic forms that we can look at and read to try to save costs on paper, ink, printing, time to sort, et cetera? Or is this something council would still like to receive printed and handed to them at their doors?
I might recommend you wait till January to ask that question.
Yeah.
The two new counselors may want to still have it in paper. The until they get comfortable. I do agree. I filled up a recycle bin not that long ago. Many years of this. So.
I'd be more than happy to table that question and wait till January, but my hope is to only get the pertinent information in our hands. Maybe other stuff can be just kept online.
I kind of go along with that, such as this financial report we get every month. A lot of this stuff is, yeah, I'm sure it's important to accounting financial person. A lot of that tends to blur together with me, as I have mentioned before. I like the new overviews that we're getting with the bar charts and things like that. That is great. I like these summaries, but these, I don't know if we need this monthly, these comparison charts and period actual, year-to-date actual budget, maybe once a quarter, but not every month. It's just that they're numbers that they kind of blur together for me personally. I have wholehearted trust. We have audits that happen. Back when I was mayor, I would kind of catch a few highlights and try and look through them, try to understand them. But to take the time to actually know this stuff line by line is a bit challenging. So I mean, there's I don't know, it's 20 pages, 15 pages anyway. We could save there without a doubt and just have the summary pages. At least in my opinion, I think it's a good idea to let's reduce. And when we're going through and we're changing the policies and procedure stuff like that, let's just make sure we're just getting the pertinent information. We don't necessarily have to have stuff we've already gone over before, that red stuff necessarily in our packets again. So I'm probably going to reduce these by a third to a half. So I'm definitely in favor of that.
Well, we'll revisit that in January when we seek the new council, but,
Very well said.
yeah. Okay, before I move on though, Councilor Steininger, do you have any comments on that?
I tend to print stuff out when I'm reviewing it, and so I do like the paper, but I can handle
Okay.
either option.
Take a look at it in January then, when our two lucky guys over here escape. Okay, other council presentations though, Councilor Rogers? Councilor Thomas?
I'm not.
Councilor Steiner?
Anything in that.
Councilor Young?
Nothing now, thank you.
Look at that, we're still moving along. Let's move on then to our city administration report out. We'll start off with Administrator Blake.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The burn rate report is attached for council's consideration. Overall revenues are tracking as expected. However, as a result of some vacancies in the police department, the state grants associated with DUII, seatbelts, and speed enforcement activities have not been achieved. This is approximately $13,000 in revenue that was budgeted and probably will not be earned this fiscal year. However, with that said, Officer Hart has become a certified truck inspector, and the city has received just over $6,000 in salary reimbursement for Officer Hart's time. Staff anticipates additional revenue from this truck inspector services to assist in offsetting any lost revenue from the state grants. It's anticipated that as the police department becomes fully staffed and trained, that these activities associated with the state grants will be moving forward. 50% of the interest earnings have already been collected, and we're only like a third through the fiscal year. The growth is anticipated, however, to slow as the state of Oregon Treasury is lowering interest rates for the local government investment pool accounts by 1/4%. But overall, the interest earnings should still come in much higher than anticipated. Additionally, there was a report received from Marion County Tax Assessor's Office that stated the city of Hubbard should receive approximately $50,000 more in property tax revenue than what was budgeted. The increase is a result of some updated property appraisals in some areas in Hubbard, which was definitely needed based on previous information that we received from the assessor's office. Utilities continue to trend over budget. It is estimated that PGE will be $7,100 over budget. However, this estimate does not include another expected rate increase sometime after the first of the year. Staff is unsure of what this rate increase is supposed to be. Switching to the issues tracker, Vicky sent out an updated tracker this afternoon. What I really wanted to point out here is the result of the conversation that I had this morning. There is a one-stop meeting that has been scheduled for December 11th. The meeting includes USDA, Business Oregon, and legislative representatives. This meeting will be to discuss the financing plan for our wastewater treatment plant. What we are proposing is that projects be separated out into phases for amounts anywhere between 2 to 2.5 million over, once a year, get 2 million, the next year, get another 2 million until the projects are complete. That has been very well received by all the granting agencies. However, one conversation that came up today was in regards to our utility rates and how cheap they are. So they said that would be one area that may hold us back from getting full grant funding. So I will let council know how that meeting goes on December 11th and what comments come out of that. But as of now, DEQ, Business Oregon, and our legislative representatives have all stated that our utility rates are extremely low compared to any other cities. So that's something that I wanted to bring to council's attention as we start having those conversations. I want to pause there. Are there any questions on
No
that?
question on that one, but I know in comparison to both Aurora and Donald, we're actually same ballpark. In fact, I was at the Donald meet and greet and someone was complaining about her water bill. She showed it to me and I'm like, well, that's cheaper than mine, actually, by the month.
Mhm.
So I'm shocked that they considered that still to be the case. What cities are they referring to? Do we know?
Well,
Because-
Aurora is significantly higher, but they are looking at other areas like Salem, Oregon City. So what they do is they look at the median household income and then they look at the rates of surrounding areas with a similar medium household income. We're at about 89,000 per household, medium income, and that, in looking at that, our rates are pretty low.
I look at ours as affordable.
I know with Aurora, the primary reason Aurora's is significantly higher is because they had to completely redo their sewer treatment, water treatment.
Yeah, they had a big issue 20 years ago.
Several years ago, and it cost them a ton of money, and that's why they're having to pay for that. They had to basically redo the whole thing. And then kind of historically with our own rates here in Hubbard, for many years, we really didn't have much of an increase. Now, this is like 15 years ago. And then we started, our reserve funds were getting low, and so we had to start increasing our rates. And so we set up a schedule so it would, every year it would go up a certain percentage or a certain dollar amount. And that's kind of where we've been at for a while now. I mean, just because, Woodburn down the road has higher rates doesn't mean we have to have higher rates. Yeah, I just want to make that as, so that's a benefit to our citizens living here in Hubbard. But then, just because somebody else is paying more doesn't mean we have to pay more. That would be my point there. If there is some reason we need to increase our rates for, improvements within the city, I can understand that. But let's be cautious about, just because somebody else is paying more doesn't mean we have to pay more. So that's my 2 cents in that.
Is the concern that we're not bringing in enough, so they don't want to give us as much in grants?
That's
So that's
correct.
what they're looking, they want to see more of an even share.
And ideally, what I'd like to see happen is they approve a certain level of grant funding over a time period so that I can work with Public Works and figure out their budget. And with our existing budget, how much of a match can we come up with and kind of work that way? I mean, we've increased different kind of fees and stuff like that within our city this last year. We're gonna put, a gas tax on the ballot in May. I just get a little concerned that we keep nickel and diming the community. So I do want to be very sensitive to what that looks like for rate increases. I may be reaching out to council to have some conversations with our legislative officials to kind of talk about, what a rate increase would mean and kind of go from there. But I wanted to give council kind of this information that these conversations are happening, so you're not surprised if you hear
Right.
something.
Counselor Thomas.
Guess I would just want to see how much money we'd be missing in grants by not raising this arbitrary rate that they've kind of made up in their head. I guess we control the money. If you don't do this, we won't do that. I get it. It makes sense. But at the same time, if we can avoid having to do bonds or levies or any other form of tax to the community by getting these grants, if your water bill goes up $10 or $20 a month, is that better than your tax bill going up $500 a year? So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle I think we have to look at.
The benefit analysis is exactly what we, right? So what's the give and take? What's the opportunity cost for us, if that's the case, or even a resident?
I would think our legislative branch would understand our being fiscally responsible through the years should speak volumes to where we're at and where, instead of somebody waiting until a knee-jerk reaction and have to replace a whole bunch of water stuff and charging it off to all the people. Very quick. Man.
Well, as you said, Administrator White, just let us know when or where, how we can communicate.
Yeah,
I
I
would
will,
rather have to be in calls.
I will update council on how the December 11th meeting goes, and we'll strategize on how to move forward at
Perfect.
that time.
So you paused there, so please
Yeah.
continue.
Just a couple other things that I'd like to highlight from my report. The North Marion Tourism Collaborative received $66,000 from Marion County and another $87,000 from the Ford Family Foundation to hire a consultant to develop a strategic economic development plan. A portion of the funds will be allocated to participating cities, and the consultant will assist the cities with a city-specific economic development plan. So this is basically, the consultant will come in and work with me, and we'll develop a draft plan to present to council. So, this, I think, is excellent that we were able to come together, the 9 cities, and capitalize on these grant funds to be able to develop economic plans for all 9 cities, or at least the ones that want to participate.
It's an excellent example of collaboration.
Yes.
Yes.
And additionally, staff has applied for a grant totaling $16,484 offered by the Department of Justice to assist with funding body worn cameras. The city received $10,000 from CIS, and if awarded the DOJ grant, we will have covered the remaining 1-year costs for cameras that, and those funds are due in July of 2025. So we have some time. I'll be back to council if we get awarded the grant for approval and acceptance. And with that, I am done with my report.
Is there any additional questions for Administrator White? We'll start with Counselor Young.
Do not, thank you.
Counselor Stunning.
I just want to say thank you for all of the footwork that goes into getting all these grants and the money and the funding, and even looking at if we do have to raise a rate to match something, like all the work you're going into to get the match to go with that. Otherwise, we would have to raise the rates to cover everything. And so I just appreciate all the work that you guys are doing, and just the amount that keeps coming in just proves that you are doing an excellent job. So thank you.
Well said. Okay, Counselor Thomas.
I agree. No other comments.
Counselor Otter.
No other comments.
Okay, we'll move on to the Police Department. Chief Parisi.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the community. October was a great month. Kind of highlighting that month was we got to roll out 2 different new online programs, if you will. One of which is a training program that will benefit our police department officers and whatnot. with their training. That was through Police One Academy. And it'll be kind of designed to help us enhance the skill sets of the officers, ensure compliance with state training requirements, and also just promote a culture of continuing learning and whatnot. So we're looking forward to that. The online training program itself will not be the only way we train. We're certainly going to have hands-on practical training, if you will, scenario-based, which is very, very important as well. But this is kind of a best practice approach, this being a blended training program, if you will, some online and some in person as well. So we're excited about that. Also, the new online crime reporting system has gone live, and this is a really awesome creative tool that's kind of designed to enhance community engagement and streamline the reporting process for folks as well, and improve the overall public safety of our community and whatnot. So we're really looking forward to that. Also, we had a great suggestion, by the way, Mayor, thank you for that. And Sean helped Molly over at the police department side put together these really nice flyers that will have a QR code on there as well that people can use to access the online crime reporting system, which is through My PD Connect. And those are going to be going up. I think they already started going up. Actually, Molly distributed them today and whatnot to different businesses and locations throughout the community of Hubbard and Donald as well. So we're looking forward to that too. Officer Marshall and I got to attend the North Marion Middle School Fall Carnival. That was a great time in October. And then we're also really excited, expecting the arrival of our new evidence cabinetry and shelving, if you will, from Space Savers. This month on the 19th, that'll arrive and be installed. That was approved by the budget committee through that process. So that'll really enhance where we're storing our evidence and the safety of that, and just legitimacy of it as well and stuff. So I attended the user fee committee meeting again, and also the North Marion School District Board meeting in October. And we also, everybody loved being involved with the trunk or treat. So that was a great time too. And I think the weather could have been a lot worse, but it wasn't that bad. So we had a lot of fun. So,
Could have been better.
yeah, it could have been better too. Yeah, I think that's about it. Unless anybody has any questions.
I don't really have any questions, but just, I did attend the meet and greet in Donald. I want to let council know, everyone in attendance, and nothing but good things to say about the police department's agreement and how thankful they are to have them there. So that was fantastic. Also, your time at the North Marion School District Board meeting was commented by those that are on that panel, or at least the district, that they appreciate your professionalism and your team spirit working with Wes down there at the school district. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't have any additional questions. Councilor Gunn?
Yeah, I just kind of mentioned this to Administrator Wade earlier, but just kind of a follow-up from that incident we had up at the storage units earlier a few weeks back, and the communications between Metcom and Willamette Valley Communications Center. So I'm assuming the different dispatches have geographic coverage locations. Is that it? And so there was a challenge between Metcom and the Willamette Valley Communications Center. And I'm assuming we're addressing that issue. Can I explain to me? It says, is Metcom a governmental organization? Is it a private organization? How does Metcom exist? In what format do they exist? And Willamette Valley Communication Center, I'm assuming, would exist in a similar format, and their communication between each of those. And is there ways of reducing that possible delay between those two organizations? So can you at least explain to me how how these organizations exist and why we contract with them.
Yeah, I'll try to do justice, but of course, there's nobody better who can talk about that than our very own former director of Metcom. But I won't call her out of retirement. Talk about it, but yeah, they're both public safety answering points. Obviously, Metcom is considered an ORS 190. It's in the statute there as a government body, I believe, as an answering point for emergency calls for service and what have you. And yeah, they both just handle different, kind of within the same geographical area, but they're responsible for different answering calls for service in different parts of the county and whatnot. So if like we request help from Marion County, the only way to do that is Metcom calls down to Willamette Valley Communications Center. They ask the Marion County dispatcher to dispatch help because we're not all on one common radio system. However, in some cases, we can scan each other. Like, for example, we could scan Marion County's radio. We could also talk to them from the car radio as well, and vice versa with Marion County. And actually, I think only in the supervisor rigs at Marion County, I can't quite remember, but yeah, I don't know if that's quite answering your question or stuff. It's difficult, I think, to reduce the delay, just because of the way it's set up.
Yeah, I remember, I reflect back on when I used to work on an ambulance back many years ago. And we actually had 3 radio systems in the ambulance. We had the ambulance dispatch, we had the state police radio, which we could receive, but we couldn't transmit on. And then we had a CB radio. And so that was in the mid to late 70s. So that was kind of our setup. And so we had all 3 of them in each of our ambulance rigs. So that way we can communicate with who we needed to communicate with. I think the state police also dispatched our local, whoever dispatched the state police dispatched our local police department as well. So we could listen in on that dispatch. I was just kind of wondering, I mean, there was, if there's, I know it'd be an expense to, you talk about scanning their frequencies. I don't know if there'd be more expense to be able to outfit our vehicles with at least a capability of listening in on what they're being dispatched to, and then vice versa. So that way we have a less of a delay in the communication situation. So I don't know if there's something we can kind of look at or investigate to reduce that difficulty.
Yeah, so you bring up a great point. It's a concern, I think, that's been around the county for a number of years in terms of the communications and whatnot with all the different, agencies, police and fire and things of that nature. We are currently set up within our patrol cars to where we can scan Oregon State Police, Marion County Sheriff's Office. But for example, we cannot, I guess we could because Jervis is on the same channel as Marion County. So, but Mount Angel, for example, we couldn't talk to them. I believe they're on their own frequency.
Yeah, and it's not just being able to have the channel in your radio. You have to be able to hit the towers. So example, Mount Angel and Silverton, it's pretty impossible for Hubbard to hit their channel to talk to them.
If I'm not mistaken too, just not too many years ago, we were talking about expanding our range, our communication triangle, if you would.
Not to mention that if that's a Hubbard call, you're not going to get county or anybody else unless Hubbard requests their assistance.
Right.
And county, same thing. If that happened outside the county, unless they request Hubbard, it's not for liability purposes.
Right.
We're not going to just jump a call. It's not in our, because if we get in a crash on the way there because we chose to do it, it falls on our. Now, if we're asked to do something, if the police department's asked for assistance, then there's some shared liability there. So you don't do much without getting permission.
But to follow up on what Councilor Young is saying, though, I think from the retrospective you all did on that situation, one of the improvement areas was how can we improve at least coordination and communication during an incident? And I think you guys are looking at that.
Yeah, I think through the radio project that's still been ongoing and whatnot are things that I hope will alleviate that one day as well.
It's a pretty complex issue, I think is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
But it is on the radar, Councilor Hubbard.
And, you know, and talking about hidden towers and stuff, old story. So went back in that same time frame. I was, had to play, so we had it was Cottage Grove ambulance, was up in the mountains. I could hear the ambulance, I could hear the base station down the valley, but they couldn't hear each other, so I had to transfer me, go between, because they couldn't hit the tower, I guess, or whatever you call it. They were just in the wrong place in the mountains. But yeah, I was just a little concerned about some of the information I read on that report. So I just wondered if we're trying to maybe work towards resolving that issue. I just didn't quite understand how Metcom versus Willamette Valley Communication Center existed. So I guess it's not only just cover the same geographic, but they have different organizations they dispatch to. So, yes, go ahead.
Do you want me to explain the 911 piece of that? So so there's two dispatch centers, in Marion County, 911 calls are routed by fire and EMS district. So if somebody calls 911, it's gonna automatically route landline or cell phone, cell towers that are closest to that PSAP or that dispatch center. And so if you're in, I don't know what call you're talking about delay, but if you're in this area and you call 911, you're gonna go to Metcom. If it is a fire and EMS call, they're gonna keep it. If it's law enforcement and it's outside the city limits, they're gonna transfer it to Willamette Valley, because Willamette Valley dispatches for the sheriff's office. If you have a lot of 911 calls coming in and they're hitting cell towers and it's inundated, the cell towers are gonna bounce to the next one and to the next one. And if, say there's a really bad accident on I-5, you could get calls that are bouncing to the incorrect dispatch center just because they can't handle the overload.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Great insight. Any additional questions for Chief Carusi?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Sandberg.
I do not have any right now.
Councilor Thomas?
I've done, thank you.
Councilor Harder?
I have not.
Well, let's move right along. Public Administration Department, Director Null.
Back in April, I wanted to bring your attention to a Scrivener's error. The resolution was, mentioned in the minutes as 773-440, and it should have been 773-2024. I did, provide you a copy of the minutes and then a copy of the resolution as well. And then, I've prepared some, graphs as to the municipal citations that have been submitted and also the funds received. If we get, a high amount of citations in 1 month, then the following month is when the funds would be coming in for those tickets that were written. Did you have any questions about this graphs?
No, looks interesting. Just glad we're not seeing them all canceled again.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Also which you probably have already seen online, the unofficial results of the election. We do have, a write-in, Chris, and I'm probably you probably know the last name better than I do. Is it Fischel? Is that how you say it?
I shall.
Fischel? So he looks like, he would be for the second seat on council. And what happens is I have to submit a letter to him, and there's a form that he has to fill out to accept the seat. So I'll be doing that, soon. I don't have, anything else to report unless you have questions on about my report. Other than we had an awesome time at the.
I still want you just to read that measure passed prohibiting that specific substance, just to get you to try to say it, because I was struggling. There you go, okay. Well done. No, I don't have any questions. Councilor Rogers, do you have any questions? Councilor Thomas?
No question.
Councilor Stemminger?
Congratulations. Mayor Valcasel for
Thank you.
getting another target. They also, Patrick thought he was not here.
I've already reached out to both, Patrick Zadi as well as Chris. You know, Chris unofficially, things would say congratulations, but until it's officially done, and then Patrick. So they're both excited to be stepping on board for sure. Okay, Councilor Yonley?
No, I have no further comments.
Okay, we'll move on then to Public Works Department. Superintendent Holder.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilors. So just wanted to go over kind of some of the highlights from my report. It is exciting to see actually the lease for T-Mobile actually on the consent agenda and hopefully moving forward so we can cross that off of the project list. So that's a good thing. I'm excited, as I noted, as our department is kind of moving towards the future. And I'm scheduling the individual staff meetings for throughout the month of December, focusing on staff retention, training and succession planning, trying to kind of continue to pace where we're at now and also looking at where we need and want to be in the future and what steps we need to that are necessary to get us there successfully. And one of the team trainings that we're going to have coming up is the flagging certification. That's to keep us in compliance with safety requirements. We're working right now with the trainer to finalize the date for that, but it'll be about a half-day training that will reserve the council chambers here, and all team members from operations will come and participate in that, and then we'll be good to go for 2 years. For the getting ready for the gearing up for the quickly approaching holiday season. So the Christmas tree lighting ceremony is on schedule. They're gonna, as I mentioned, they're gonna have one more year at Centennial, and then we're working with them to come up with a different plan for, and hopefully a new and improved plan for years to come in the future. In addition to the ceremony, you probably have noticed the Holiday Star is now on. So that was turned on November 5th. Staff is working hard to revamp the 3rd Street candlestick decorations. They had kind of fallen apart in the wind, that kind of thing. So we're working on getting those all ready to go, along with the Christmas card greeting as well. So those will be up and ready to go, definitely before Thanksgiving week, but as soon as possible for that. So that's good. It is, like I said, that's coming up really quickly. Did want to share too, this was, as I mentioned in my report, another significant team achievement that we had was successfully working our way through the lead and copper revised rule requirements. It was a pretty significantly sized project as well, and it involved every single one of our public works team members. And we all had our own individual roles that all contributed to making that project a success. Since I had written my report and submitted it, I have heard back from Oregon Health and they've accepted it. And we've been giving the blessing to go ahead and move forward with our public notification and our official EPA survey response. And I'm really happy, and it feels really good to be able to state to our community that the service line inventory that was required by the EPA is complete, and all service lines were determined to be non-lead based on records, historic knowledge, and also physical inspections where we actually dug out and showed both the public and private side. So really good job to the Public Works team. They did an amazing job pulling that one together. So again, it feels very good on that. We participated in the kind of worldwide 2024 shakeout emergency drill. That was on Thursday, October 17th, excuse me, at 10:17 a.m. What we did here in the city is we practiced the drop, cover, and hold on exercise, which started at 10:17, and we did that for 4 minutes. So we ended it at 10:21, and then everybody evacuated and went to the pre-designated safe areas. And we had an after-action discussion about, for us in Public Works, what we talked about was how easy or hard it was to get into a protected space and then actually stay that way, you know, hands over the head, underneath the desk where you're kind of cramped. And like we were talking in the office, it was actually hard to get our whole bodies underneath the desk. So you're protecting your head, your neck, and your feet is what ends up sticking out. Vulnerable. But anyway, so that was good. And then afterwards, we all traipsed out for when we're in our Public Works office, our safe meeting spot, to make sure everybody's accounted for. and, there's not somebody that we need to go search for and make sure that they're okay, is outside our front gate. So in Public Works, that's where we all met, and we did talk about how, again, how easy or hard it was to get into that protected space and stay there. And we had, one of our operators was out in the field, so we had, you know, practice from all the different areas that you might be in an earthquake. And one of the things that we also talked about is, how do we confirm that everyone who's supposed to be here is actually here? And making sure that we stay aware of who's supposed to be scheduled to work, where they're at different times of the day. Because with earthquakes, as we know, those can happen any time of the day. And there's not really any warning for them. So again, it's us learning to make sure that we are staying aware on that. And we have, you know, our phone list, whether we can use our cell phones to reach out to those that don't show up to the safe spots, but that would be our first priority, is to make sure our team is safe and that somebody doesn't need help. The other top priority that we have in Public Works in an earthquake is whether there either could be or there is damage to the water treatment system, is we have valves that we can shut off that will make it so that the water that we have currently in the reservoirs, assuming that those didn't crash and burn during the earthquake, actually stays there and doesn't actually all drain out. So that gives us kind of our start of backup water source for our community. So that's, and we're all staff, you know, both administrative and operations is trained to know where those valves are. And as soon as we make sure everybody's safe, that's where somebody heads to get those valves turned off. So again, protect whatever water we might have left. So those are the things that we discussed in our kind of after action report for that. The next thing was when we had adopted our 2023 Water Management and Conservation Plan that was approved by the Health Department. One of the things that they wanted us to look at is how we can minimize the unaccounted water usage throughout our system. So we have had seven meters that were currently unmetered in public locations. So that would be like our wastewater treatment plant, post office, et cetera. And we're required to have all of those 7 locations metered by no later than March of 2028. So we're on our way to make sure that we meet that deadline. And then wanted to give another reminder, first of the leaf and yard debris event is this coming weekend. I did want to note that we actually adjusted this year. We made the date a little bit later, hoping to last year and the previous years, it seemed like it was actually a little bit too early for a lot of leaves to have fallen. And so we're hoping by making this a little bit later, and as you can see, there's a lot of leaves out there now. So hopefully that will work and it'll be a little bit more of a productive first event. And then we have the following one in December, so for the second event. And then G Street Sidewalk project did happen. So yay, that was a really feel good moment as well for our team. Seeing that sidewalk go in, contractors showed up like they were supposed to. The only thing right now that we're waiting for is for Union Pacific to come and give their final inspection, which I'm anticipating will happen in the next few weeks. So again, that was a long awaited project to actually finally kind of come to fruition. So that was a good thing. Training, we've got Mike, Public Works Foreman Mike Krebs did complete his mandatory CEU trainings for his 2-year cycle. So he's good to go for that for another 2 years. Public Works Administrative Assistant Molly King has been assigned a new role in her position as the City Safety Meeting Chair. So she recently completed and received her certificates of completion for 3 safety-related OSHA trainings, which is accident investigation, hazard identification and control, and safety committees and safety meetings. So kudos to both of them for moving forward with their training and improvement on that. So couple of things that, well, I did want to say, unfortunately, I was not able to spend the time that I had hoped to dedicate to the Public Works dashboard, the new and improved one that I've been talking about. But I did want council to know I am still very excited for the transition, and I am definitely committed to making it happen in the coming weeks. So haven't forgotten about it. I just had other things that came up that I had to prioritize a little bit higher than the dashboard. So but definitely very committed and very excited to get that up and on board. And
You can blame me.
other things came up. We know what that means. And then a few things that mentioned that weren't in my report. So just this last Thursday, we actually had a really significant water main leak on Oak Ridge Lane. And we received notice in the wee mornings of the morning on that day. And staff did complete an investigation and developed a kind of a plan of action of what we needed to do. Emergency locates were called in. In order to complete the repair, and we had to turn water off for all of Oak Ridge, and there was the potential that we might have to affect some that were on Castile Street, which it turned out it didn't. But what we did is we did as much as we could. We knocked on doors and actually spoke to people, and those that we couldn't reach in person, we left door hangers. I mean, we had a team on site all that time, while the water was off, but we wanted to make sure we were trying to keep up good relations with our community and make sure that they had some heads up. And we also tried to time the shut off where hopefully the majority of people would already have had showers, getting ready for work, that kind of thing. So that was all taken into consideration as well. And then the repair was completed, and water was turned back on, so that was good. We did a pretty good project site cleanup. And the concrete repair work on the driveway entrance was completed the following day. The only remaining kind of cleanup and repair is the asphalt that covered the actual pipe that had broken, and that was still pretty saturated. There was some mud from having to dig it up, that kind of thing. So we're giving it a little bit of time to settle, and then we'll go in and do the asphalt repair. But we had a good conversation with the property owner that directly affects, and he was very supportive, and he said, all is good, just whenever you guys get to it, that works for us. So that was greatly appreciated, his support on that. So, and then the tennis pickleball, unfortunately, that is now officially on hold until spring. But definitely I'm not going to lose track and lose sight of that. As soon as we get some good weather and the park turf is dry enough that we can get that heavy equipment out there, we'll make sure that gets scheduled and completed. So, and that's what I have for my report, unless anybody has any questions.
No questions on my side. Thank you. I'm not surprised that tennis court needs to be pushed out till.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to do it right now. I do want to express my gratitude for you stepping into a role and establishing yourself as a leader. Pulling together staff meetings, taking very seriously the shakeout, doing an after action report on it, and how things can be improved. Cross-training your team. Fantastic job. Thank you. Questions though, Councilor Rogers?
Couple, did Public Works do the repair on that water themselves?
Yes, we did the repair on what we did contract out was the repair of the concrete work for the driveway.
That's great.
But everything else, the staff, city staff.
Are all the fire hydrants been repaired, do you know? There was some over the last year or so that were on
Yes,
hold.
yes.
Okay, great. And lastly, I looked out my front window last week before I left, and our little top lot looked horrible with the leaves. But then the guy showed up, and man, did he do a great job.
Thank you.
Picked every leaf up and cleaned it all up, and it was just amazing. I don't
Awesome.
know, I could blame some of those leaves coming down on my end of the street. Maybe he should stop by. Really, really good job. It was
Thank
great
you.
to see how quick he worked efficiently, and man.
Awesome, that's really good to hear. Thank you.
Councilor Thomas?
No questions.
Councilor Steiner?
I have no question.
Councilor Young?
First, I'd like to, you did a great job on getting that leak taken care of, very timely and efficiently. Thank you very much for that. Just a couple comments here about the shakeout emergency drill. So remember doing one number of years ago with about 200 people sitting in chairs like this, and they said time, and everybody had to get underneath their chairs. I just 200 people, men and women, had to get underneath the chair. That was a challenge. Yeah. So yeah, feet sticking out, hands sticking out, head sticking out. Understand that completely. But yeah, then I haven't been through a couple of earthquakes myself. Those drills are really good do and definitely think about ahead of time. So, great job on that as well. And, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, Chief Carmen is not here this evening. He did send out an email. I'm not sure if everyone got a chance to see it. He did have a conflict. He did give a quick, just kind of a let everyone know, at least in the email, that they did have that fire down on Shirley Avenue. There was, 2 residents that were injured, but not life threatening. It was a total loss of the house. And no fire detectors in the house, so the fire department's actually going door to door down there, knocking on doors to see if, individuals need fire detectors. They will be provided fire detectors. It's coming out of, I forgot the fund off the top of my head. But he just wanted to let us know that they're following up, trying to make sure those homes are safe. That's all I've got on that one, besides that they are also aligned to working with the Brooks North Marion. So that's great there. With that, we'll move on to consent agenda. I'll read it as written. A, approval of the October 8th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. B, approval of the October 2024 check register report. C, resolution 795-2024, a resolution repealing resolution 793-2024, and adopting City of Hubbard policies for the City of Hubbard. Resolution 796-2024, a resolution creating a convenience fee for credit card transactions for services provided by the City of Hubbard, other than utility and municipal court payments. E, resolution 797-2024, a resolution amending the job description of the city administrator and repealing resolution number 7202021. Resolution 798-2024, a resolution amending the job description of the director of administration, city recorder, and repealing resolution 750-2023. G, resolution 799-2024, resolution amending the job descriptions of administrative assistant, court clerk, and repealing resolution 624-2017. H, resolution 800-2024, a resolution amending the job description of the administrative support assistant and repealing resolution 735-2022. I, accept letter to Congress urging them to pass a clean supplemental appropriations to fund and replenish depleted disaster assistance account and authorize the mayor to sign. J, accept and authorize city administrator Sean Wake to execute the first amendment to tower lease with option between the City of Hubbard and T-Mobile.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda as written.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed say nay. Consent agenda carries. Any other city business? None. There's only one agenda topic left then.
Motion we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. We are adjourned.
Yeah.
All right. You all safe out there this evening with the storm blowing?
No problem.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, you weren't here for that.
Well.
City.